It had been 3 weeks since the Eye of Michael ripped the town of Mexico Beach apart, house by house and tree by tree. Our little caravan of 11 volunteers drove into the region on a Friday night. We were still 30 miles from the coastline when the extent of the devastation came into view as we witnessed torn off roofs and large trees neatly snapped like toothpicks. As we pulled into Mexico Beach, every roof was tarped. Even bricks had been blown off the sides of buildings. Homes closest to the beach were either gone or gutted by the wind. American flags dotted the barren landscape, most of them now flying higher than the massive pines that were now just sticks in the ground. A crudely painted sign on particle board nailed to one of those trees proclaimed, "Michael can't stop Mexico Beach." The once bustling coastal town may not be stopped, but the historic wind and rain had brought it to its knees. Our little band of volunteers could only do so much. The task ahead was immense. As the adults in our group wielded chainsaws, the teenagers hauled the debris to the roadway. We filled up wheelbarrows with scattered fragments of roofs and siding that probably weren't even from the homes we were working at. There was a quietness unlike anything witnessed before. The silence only broken by the distant sounds of occasional nail guns and chainsaws. Most homes were still vacant. Even the state trooper posted at the roadblock on the outskirts of town wasn't sure if anyone was permanently back living in their homes. Most people who were asked for identification coming into town were checking on their dwellings for the first time to see if they were still there. As for our group, we had been given a letter from the city of Mexico Beach inviting and granting access to a town that had otherwise been cut off from the rest of the world. The letter stated that we were one of the few organizations authorized into town, but also tremendously offering thanks for our service to those whose lives had been devastated there. From sun up to sundown, we worked tirelessly to clear trees from yards and roofs, miraculously pondering how they had not crushed the homes and people inside. Some of the people we spoke with had stayed through the storm, telling us simply, it was wild. After the first day, we woke to the sound of church hymns radiating throughout our campsite and a call to gather for sacrament meeting. Never before had any of us attended church in the middle of a field without a roof over our head, but after what we had witnessed the day before, it all seemed normal. We sang hymns together and each took the sacrament, passed by deacons from throughout the 8 stakes in attendance. The bread and water blessed by weary priests who wore the clothes they had donned the night before. As Elder Jeffrey R. Holland said during the April 2017 General Conference, "Come as you are, don't plan to stay as you are." We had gathered without fanfare or even a building to meet in, and we were changed by the experience, leaving with an appreciation for everything we had that was still intact back home. For those whose lives were in the eye of the storm, the months ahead will be the hardest part. One couple sat on their front porch as Helping Hands volunteers rolled up to remove the large pines that had fallen around them. The house itself had flooded during the storm, and the elderly couple needed to gut it and rebuild the interior. The waiting list for local contractors is 2 years long, so they are planning to do the work themselves, somehow. On this day, under a cloudless blue sky, the first order was to help them remove the monstrous trees that littered the landscape. It was exhausting work, both mentally and physically. At times, it felt that our little contribution in the grander scheme of things wasn't necessarily making an impact. One house had large oaks that had fallen, filling the backyard with massive branches and whole trees, one of which had just barely clipped the edge of the house. It took us 2 hours and 4 chainsaws to clear the yard, revealing a beautiful dock going out to a lake that we didn't even know was there when we first arrived. Piece by piece, we were helping people put their lives back together after the same storms we too had witnessed and prepared for just weeks before. Luckily, those same storms had spared us from their wrath, so we could be there to serve those in need.